Good evening, everyone. I hope all of you are doing fine. Welcome to today's session. The topic for today's session is subject-verb agreement. If I talk about this topic, it is quite easy if you understand the basics. And that is exactly what we are going to do today. We are going to understand the rules of subject-verb agreement so that we are able to answer all the questions correctly and effortlessly, right? So before we proceed, I'll write two statements, two sentences on the board. Right? My dog barks, right? When we're talking about dog is performing the action of barking in this case. So dog becomes the subject of the sentence and the action is obviously barking. So this becomes the verb of the sentence. Subject-verb agreement says that the subject of the sentence and the verb that we use along with that subject should always be in agreement. What do we mean by that? One simple rule that will help you solve all the questions. Singular subject would always use singular verb and plural subject would always use a plural verb. As simple as that. No matter how complex the question may seem, but this is one thing that you always need to keep in mind. Singular subject will always use a singular verb. Plural subject will always use a plural verb. Here, dog is singular. So the verb that we use with it, barks, is singular. If I say my dogs, I will have to change it to bark. Plural subject, plural verb. In order to change the subject from singular to plural, we mostly add s or es and reverse in case of verb. In order to change a verb from singular to plural, we tend to remove s, right? So if we talk about the rules now, subjects and verbs must agree in number. So let's say I, you, he, she, we, you as in plural you, and they. This is first person singular, first person, second person singular, third person singular, first person plural, second person plural, and third person plural. Right? So we are going to talk about this in the next slide. Right? He and she, third person singular, would always use a singular verb. We, first person plural, would always use a plural verb. If you're talking about you as in plural, in case of plural, again it will use a plural verb and they would always use a plural verb. So she drives a red car, they drive a red car, right? So drives here is singular, drive is plural. My dog barks all day and my dogs bark all day. As simple as that. This is quite easy, quite simple, something that you must be acquainted with. So I will move on, quickly move on to the next slide. Now, if we talk about I and you, we said that I and you, first person singular and second person singular. But special इज्जत मिलती है I और you को. What is the special izzat? The special izzat is that I and you, even if they are singular subjects, they will always use a plural verb. I and you will always use a plural verb. Okay? Even after being singular subjects. She wants to eat sushi, but I want to eat sushi. He has a beautiful home, but you have a beautiful home. Right? So, second thing, again, this is also something that you must be familiar with. With I and you, we use plural verbs. Even after these subjects being singular, we use plural verb forms with them. Moving on. Use singular verbs for singular compound subjects using or, nor. Now, if two subjects are connected with or, so sorry for that. If two subjects are connected with or, either or, neither nor, and if the two subjects are singular subjects. Mind you, if the two subjects that are connected with or, either or neither nor, if both the subjects are singular subjects, we will use a singular verb. If both the subjects are singular subjects, we will use a singular verb. Right? So my aunt is singular, or my uncle is singular, is arriving today. Not are arriving today, is arriving today. Because either of them, not both. Ya to aunt, ya uncle. So we are talking about one person here. So we are going to use a singular verb. Similarly, either my dog or my cat needs to be fed. Right? Neither my phone, singular, nor my charger, singular, was in the bag. If I write were here, this would be absolutely incorrect. Right? So, two subjects, singular subjects, when connected using or, nor, either or, neither nor, will take a singular verb form. All right, moving on. Use plural verbs for compound subjects using and. Simple. The moment our count becomes more than one, we are going to use a plural verb. Plural subject, plural verb. Sarah and Susie. Now we are talking about two people here. Sarah and Susie. Right? So now our subject becomes plural in nature. Sarah and Susie are traveling to China. Plural subject, plural verb form. Right? Jack and Jill sit on the wall. Again, we are talking about two people, plural subject, plural verb. As simple as that. Pura ka pura subject verb agreement is based on this foundation of singular subject, singular verb, plural subject, and plural verb. Now, there is an exception that I've written here. The actor and director is very humble. So now you must be thinking, ki, man, you just told us that with subjects, when they're connected with and, we use a plural verb. So why are we using is here? Here you need to understand that we are talking about the same person. The same person is the actor, the same person is the director. Right? The actor and director. He's the actor, he's the director. Then we can use a singular verb because we are in a way talking about a single person only here, not multiple people. Again, dishes, bread and butter is my favorite dish because I am considering bread and butter to be one dish, not multiple dishes. Idli and sambar is my favorite dish because bread and butter you'll have together as one singular dish, right? You're not going to treat it as two separate entities. No. So, in a way, we are again abiding by our rule, singular subject, singular verb. So, here, bread and butter, we have considered it to be one dish, therefore, is my favorite dish. Right? So, these are some things that we need to keep in mind. Next, use plural verbs for plural compound subjects using or, nor. Now, again, we are doing the same thing. We are abiding by the same rule. Whenever sentences are connected by or, either or, neither nor, and the subjects now that we are talking about, they are plural. Both the subjects are plural. Mind you, both the subjects are plural. We are going to use a plural verb form. Okay? The cookies or the brownies, plural, plural, are on the top shelf. Either my brothers, plural, or my sisters, plural, have created a problem. Neither the apples, plural, nor the oranges, plural, are ripe. Right? So, बिल्कुल भी ये मत सोच के बैठिए कि either or या neither nor के साथ हमेशा you're going to use a singular verb form. It depends on the subject. So you have to very carefully keep the subject into consideration before deciding upon the verb form. Right? So here, since both the subjects, they are in their plural form, the verb would also take up a plural verb form. Now, if we talk about a sentence that has both singular and plural subjects, till now we were just talking about both the subjects being singular or both the subjects being plural. But now we're talking about one subject being singular and the other being plural. How do we decide the verb form in that case? In that case, we are going to consider the subject which is closer to the verb. If the subject closer to the verb is plural, we'll take up a plural verb form. If the subject closer to the verb is singular, we'll take up a singular verb form. As simple as that. Let's have a look at the first statement. The goose, which is singular, and the chickens, which is plural. So now we have one singular subject in the sentence, we have one plural subject in the sentence. But I am going to consider the subject which is closer to the verb. It is chickens. Chickens is plural, so I'm going to take a plural verb form. Okay? Neither the batteries, so this is plural, nor the machine, but machine is singular and it is closer to the verb form. So I'm going to take up a singular verb form here. The manager, singular, or the employees, plural. What am I going to consider here? I am going to consider this as my subject in order to decide my verb form. So employees is plural, are planning the meeting, a plural verb form. If I invert the situation, the employees or the manager, if I say the employees or the manager. Now I'll have to consider manager, which is a singular subject, and I will have to change this to is. The employees or the manager is planning the meeting. Right? Moving on. So sorry about that. Okay. Next tip, next rule, use singular verbs with each and every. Right? Each and every will take up singular verb. Right? Each player has a unique role. Not have a unique role. Each player has a unique role. Each member of the committee was allowed to speak once. Every cloud has a silver lining, right? So each and every take up a singular verb form. Next rule, indefinite pronouns must agree with verbs. What do we mean by that? Indefinite pronouns like anyone, everyone, no one, someone, anybody, everybody, nobody, somebody, anything, everything, nothing, something, each, every, either, neither. Of course, this is only applicable if the verbs, if the subject in consideration is singular or plural, depending on that. But otherwise, these indefinite pronouns would take a singular verb form. Right? They will take up a singular verb form. Everyone is excited for the trip. No one is going to help you in this task. Somebody needs to answer the door. Right? So we have taken up a singular verb form. If you're talking about indefinite pronouns like few, many, several, both, right? Several of the students were late. Several of the students were late. Few are coming to the event. Now, these indefinite pronouns would take up a plural verb form. Okay, so you need to keep in mind indefinite pronouns that would take up a singular verb form and indefinite pronouns that would take up a plural verb form. Moving on, collective nouns take singular verb forms. Collective nouns take singular verb form. Collective nouns consist of many members, but they are considered or they are taken as one single entity, right? They are taken as one single entity. So with collective nouns, we tend to use a singular verb form, right? For example, my family. Now, there are obviously many members that are present in a family, but we'll consider family to be one unit. And because we're considering it to be one unit, singular unit, it has to take a singular verb form. My family travels together every summer. The committee, again, committee has many members, but we are taking committee to be one singular subject, one singular unit, one singular entity. The committee decides on the new policy. The jury has reached a decision. Now, sometimes you would see that plural verb forms are also being used with collective nouns, and if I'm being honest, that is not completely incorrect. We just need to understand the context in which we've used a singular verb form and a plural verb form. When I say the audience was clapping and I say the audience were clapping, right? Both these statements here are correct, but in two different ways. When I say the audience was clapping, right, I'm considering audience to be one singular unit. I'm considering it to be a collective noun, and therefore I've used a singular verb form with it, which is fair, which is what we have been talking about. But if I say the audience were clapping, is this sentence incorrect? No, it's actually not. When I say the audience were clapping, here I am referring to the individual members of the audience. Right? Here I am referring to the individual members of the audience, and thus instead of using was, I have used were. Okay? So it is basically subject to interpretation. The context in which you're using either a singular verb form or a plural, that is important. Next, use singular verbs for units of measurement, right? Use singular verbs for units of measurement. 500 kilometer is a long distance. 10 years is a long time. 5 liters of petrol was purchased, right? So whenever you're talking about any unit of measurement, we are going to use a singular verb form. All right, moving on. Use singular verbs for gerunds. Now, gerunds are words that end in ing and they are treated as nouns, right? Swimming, walking, eating, right? They end in ing, and when we use them in a sentence, we treat them as noun. Gerunds always take up a singular verb, right? Swimming is fun. Eating too much sugar is unhealthy. Exercising keeps you healthy. So here, swimming is a gerund, eating is a gerund, exercising is a gerund. And we have clubbed them up with singular verb forms. Moving on, use singular verbs for titles of published work, regardless of the title being singular or plural per se, right? Whenever we are talking about any book, we are talking about any movie, right? We are going to use a singular verb form. If I say great expectations, I would not consider this to be plural here, even though expectations would, come across as being plural here, and it is. But here, because it is the title of a book, we are going to use a singular verb form with it. Great Expectations was written by Dickens. Three Idiots, again, I'm not going to consider the singularity, or if the title is singular or plural. I'm just going to consider the fact that it is the name of a movie, and therefore I should be using a singular verb form along with it. Okay, so Three Idiots is my favorite movie. The Chronicles of Narnia is a great book. Along similar lines, we're going to treat it as a singular subject. Moving on, match the subject with the verb in question. Always keep into consideration the subject, right? Some words that might be confusing may come up in a sentence, but always try to, understand कि हमारा subject क्या है. So if we look at the first example, the pieces of the puzzle are scattered on the floor. Here are subject that we need to consider. Pieces. What is scattered on the floor? What is scattered on the floor? Pieces. Multiple pieces. Not one piece, multiple pieces. Here we are not going to consider puzzle, right? We are talking about the pieces of the puzzle being scattered. So the pieces of the puzzle are scattered on the floor. We have to consider this here and not this. Similarly, the colors of the rainbow are beautiful. What is beautiful? The colors, the different colors, multiple colors, right? We're talking about something which is more than one, the colors. So we are going to consider this and hence use a plural verb form. Next, the teacher together with the students. Now, together with, along with, as well as, right? These are just additional words that you should not consider. Here, the teacher together with the students. This is additional information. Okay? I am talking about the teacher here. My subject is the teacher, which is singular. Together with the students, not together with the students, that is not my concern here. Along with the students, not along with the students, that is not my concern here, right? I have to consider my subject, which is teacher in this case, and which is a singular subject. So the teacher together with the students is going to the auditorium, right? I have to consider the subject teacher. This is just extra information and should not come in the way of choosing a verb form. Similarly, the doctor along with the nurses. What is our subject here? Doctor, which is a singular subject. So, the doctor along with the nurses walks daily. We have chosen a singular verb form. So this would have been employees of the organization as well as the CEO. Again, additional information. My main subject here would be employees. My main subject here would be employees, which is plural in nature. So I am going to consider a plural verb form here. Employees of the organization as well as the CEO. I'm not going to consider as well as additional information. I do not care about that information. Employees of the organization as well as the CEO have. Why have? Because our main subject here is plural in nature. Right? A basket of puppies was in the kitchen. What is my main subject here? Basket, which is one in number. The basket has multiple puppies in it, but that is not the question here. That is not what we are going to consider while choosing a verb form. My subject here is basket, which is one in number, which is a singular subject. So a basket of puppies was in the kitchen. Right? So these are some of the rules that we need to keep in mind while solving the questions pertaining to subject-verb agreement. And one simple rule, I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. One simple rule that we will follow, and that would be singular subject, singular verb, plural subject, plural verb. I have some questions here with me. Yeah, I think now it's visible. Right? So now let's test whatever we have learned till now. One of the boys, one out of all the boys, we're just talking about one person. One out of all the boys, not all the boys, not multiple boys, one person. Right? One of the boys, singular subject, singular verb form. One of the boys was late for the game. Each of the apples, again, each of the apples, each and every, take up a singular verb form, was ripe. Next, everyone will take up a singular verb form. So everyone cheers when his hero appears. One of my favorite foods, again, we're talking about one dish, not multiple dishes. We're talking about one dish. One of my favorite foods is spaghetti. Neither you nor Alice. Right? So now neither nor question. First thing that I'll have to check whether the subjects that have been used, they are singular or plural, whether both of them are singular or both are plural, or one is singular and one is plural. So let's check. You, singular. Alice, singular. Both the subjects are singular, so I will have to choose a singular verb form. Neither you nor Alice plays the game correctly. Right? Each player, again, each and every, they'll use a singular verb form. So each player tries to win the game. Next, neither he nor she, again, singular subject, singular subject. Both the subjects are singular, so I'm going to choose a singular verb form. Neither he nor she walks to school. Right? Learning to drive is easy if one concentrates. Learning to drive is easy if one concentrates. Learning to drive. Somebody, again, with somebody, we use a singular verb form. Somebody is going to be surprised. I hope it is visible. I think I use another color. Okay, this is better. Right? So somebody is going to be surprised. Every boy on the team, every, take up a singular verb form. Every boy on the team shows good sportsmanship. Right? Why dash someone give us the signal? Someone. It's not always necessary that the subject would be placed at the start of the sentence. Sometimes it can be placed mid-sentence, right? So do not get confused by that. Always try to spot your subject in your sentence, right? So here, someone takes up a singular verb form we've just discussed. Why doesn't someone give us the signal? Either Roy or Bill, singular, I'll take up a singular verb form. Either Roy or Bill is going to be the new captain. Anybody? I'll use a singular verb form with that. Does anybody want a hot dog? Next, anyone. Again, anyone, we'll use a singular verb form. Anyone who disagrees with them is in trouble. Right? Moving on. Is this visible? Yeah. Okay. Someone, singular verb form. Someone we'll use a singular verb form. Someone has to do the work. Steve along with Jim and George. Unnecessary information that we are not concerned about here. Along with, together with, as well as, we will not look at these words. These are mere words. Our subject here is Steve, and Steve is one person. Singular subject, we're going to use a singular verb form. Steve, along with Jim and George, was there. There, dash, Emily and Joseph. Now, Emily and Joseph, two people. My subject here is plural. So I will use a plural verb form. There go Emily and Joseph. Each of the members dash contributed, right? Each, I'm going to use a singular verb form. Each of the members has contributed. Mary and her mother. Okay, I'm talking about two people here. So plural, my subject is plural, and I'm going to use a plural verb form with it. Mary and her mother are in the store. Here, dash, an old and famous landmark. Now we are talking about the same landmark. We're not talking about multiple landmarks. The adjectives that are being used to describe this landmark, they can be more than one, but we are talking about one landmark, right? So, singular verb form here is an old and famous landmark. Ralph, along with, we are not concerned here. Ralph, one subject, singular subject. So, Ralph, along with his father, is attending the game. The students with their parents. Now, here we need to consider that our main subject is plural. So now we will have to use a plural verb form. The students with their parents visit the museum. Of all my friends, only one Only one. So we are talking about just one person. We are talking about one singular person. So only one will use a singular verb form. Of all my friends, only one has written to me. Next, everybody in the band. Everybody, singular verb form. Everybody in the band seems to have a different rhythm. Next, the citizens of this town. Citizens, more than one. Plural subject. Plural subject will take up a plural verb form. The citizens of this town demand police protection. Glenville's Glee Club, collective noun. This is a collective noun. Collective nouns take up a singular verb form. Glenville's Glee Club always gives a fine concert. Both Ruth and I, right? You need to consider I here. I go to the market hoga ya I goes to the market hoga. I go to the market hoga. So both Ruth and I go to bed early. Next, either way is correct. Either way is correct. Unless every one of the members cooperates, the play will fail. Dash, someone called me. Someone will take up a singular verb form. So has someone called me. One of these dogs. One, only one. Not all, not two, not three, only one. One of the multiple dogs that we are talking about has fleas. We are talking about just one dog, singular subject, singular verb form. It was impossible because everybody, singular verb form. Everybody was gone, right? I'm sure everyone will take a singular verb form. I'm sure everyone draws better than I. And by the way, it will not be better than me. It will be better than I. Something that we are going to learn in the upcoming sessions, right? So, not better than me, better than I. Next, nobody at school, nobody, singular verb form, nobody at school knows, right? Neither Fred, singular, nor Stan, singular, both the subjects are singular. Neither nor situation, when both the subjects are singular, we choose a singular verb form. Neither Fred nor Stan understands this equation, right? So we have solved quite a few questions pertaining to subject-verb agreement. I would very quickly want to go through all the rules once again. The most basic and the most fundamental rule: subjects and verbs must agree in number. For singular subjects, we use singular verb form. For plural subjects, we use a plural verb form. Don't use singular verbs with I or you. I and you, even though they are singular subjects, we use a plural verb form with them. Use singular verbs for singular compound subjects using or and nor. If two singular subjects, both the subjects are singular, they are connected by or, either or, neither nor, we use a singular verb form. Use plural verbs for compound subjects using and, right? Because when you use and, subject, one singular subject and second singular subject, now it cumulatively becomes a plural subject. So we will use a plural verb form. Use plural verb forms for plural compound subjects using or and nor. If the subjects are plural, both the subjects are plural and they're connected by or, either or, neither nor, then we will use a plural verb form. Next, if compound subjects have both singular and plural subjects, we're going to consider the subject which is closer to the verb and then decide upon our verb form. Singular verbs are used always with each and every. So each and every take up singular verb forms. Indefinite pronouns must agree with verbs. Anyone, everyone, no one, someone, anybody, everybody, nobody, somebody, anything, everything, nothing, something, each, every, either, neither, again subject to interpretation, they take up a singular verb form, and few, many, several, both, they take up a plural verb form. Collective nouns take singular subjects. However, again, I am repeating, if a plural verb form is also used, you cannot deem the sentence to be incorrect. Maybe it is used in some other connotation that we need to think about, right? So, but mostly collective nouns take up singular subjects. Use singular verbs for units of measurement. Use singular verbs for gerunds. Use singular verbs for titles of published work. Any book, any novel, any movie that we are talking about, we'll use a singular verb form. Match the subject with the verb in question, right? So you need to understand, you need to evaluate what is my subject in this sentence, right? There are chances that sometimes you might get confused, but you need to actually take a minute, look at the sentence and try to analyze which represents your actual subject, right? And then choose accordingly. All right, so that is all for today's session. I hope you guys understood everything that was discussed. And, this topic as such, if I talk about this topic, it's not very difficult. It could be a tad bit confusing at times, but if you follow the fundamental rules properly, and if you know the fundamental rules properly, you will never have a difficulty in solving any of the questions. What is the fundamental rule that we need to remember? In any circumstance, singular subject would take a singular verb form, plural subjects would take a plural verb form. Right? That is all for today's session. I will see you guys in the next session. So take care and bye-bye.